Welcome to this episode of the Conscious Business Coffee Break, where we take a few moments to explore what's happening in the conscious business movement, expand awareness, and encourage your efforts in conscious business. Greetings, everyone. I'm Stephen Donaco of the Conscious Business Enterprise, a division of Humanities team. And on today's program, the business value of letting people be themselves, and the topic inspired by an article in Inc. magazine called How These Founders Built a $900 million Business on Buddhist Principles. That's not something that you see necessarily every day in the headlines. So it's intrigued me, of course. And this is the story of a company called Asana. It's a software company in San Francisco. And a few years ago, Dustin Moskovitz, who's the co-founder of the company and the CEO, he started a meeting in kind of a way that might be interpreted as passive aggressive, or at the very least, it was extremely confusing. And that was, he kicked off a discussion by explaining exactly how he would like to see a certain conflict resolved. And then he left the room. So the people who were left in the meeting 30 minutes later came back and determined that Dustin's proposed solution, again, Dustin's the CEO, and he sort of told them what he would like to see. But they came back and politely said, no, we don't agree, and they had come up with a better solution. And as a result, Dustin Moskovitz couldn't have been more pleased, because by rejecting what they suggested, his employees demonstrated one of the central tenets of the company, and that was that the boss isn't always right. Recognition that even though he is the boss, he is not the only one with opinions or all the knowledge or all of the solutions. So, and there might be a lot of companies out there that pay lip service to this, but Asana practices it authentically and has institutionalized it. So really what this means is that ego is not in charge at the company. He would rather walk out of a meeting than risk influencing the outcome with his opinion. And he says, quote, even if you tell them it's their call, knowing what the CEO thinks can feel equivalent to a direct order. And so how often have any of us experienced that, where there might be a boss or a leader that says, just go ahead and make the decision. I trust you. And then there's still this little part in the back of all our minds which is about trying to please the leader by being in alignment with that person's thought, or trying to predict what that person might like. This is a quantum shift in this company, because they're actually truly practicing what the leadership is preaching. And often when we're compelled to show up as conscious professionals, when we really truly feel like we want to do the right thing, and even when we understand that we might get pushback from leadership or our bosses, if we're practicing business consciously, we often follow this rebellious dictum that it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to get permission. And I certainly have experienced that in my own career, where I felt, well, I'm going to go ahead and take the agency and do the right thing, and I will explain myself later if need be. But wouldn't it be great to work for a company where you can have your instinct and you can have full ownership of a task or responsibility, a decision, and you'll be supported by the leadership and by the company culture in doing so. So this is what happens at Asana. People are encouraged really to show up as themselves. And the two founders of the company, Moskovitz and another guy by the name of Justin Rosenstein, set out to build this as the culture. Job titles are malleable. Transparency is absolute. Failure is met with Zen calm. What a concept. And the only qualifications are self-awareness and curiosity. So that authenticity is right there in the self-awareness and curiosity. And what Moskovitz and Rosenstein found when they were coming together to build this company is that they were both serious practitioners of meditation and yoga. And they believe that these Eastern wisdom teachings, like Buddhism and Taoism, bring people more than just feelings of well-being, but also allow them to be more productive. So it really wasn't a big leap for them to harness this power of Buddhism or Taoism to make their employees' work much easier and more joyful and more productive. Now, there's a lot more detail in the article about how these principles are applied, but as for the basics, let me just say that every piece of work at Asana which requires a decision falls within an area of responsibility, which is abbreviated AOR. So they call it an AOR, or area of responsibility. And each area of responsibility is assigned to an individual AOR holder. And while these AOR holders are encouraged to solicit the opinions of others, to get other opinions, other challenges to any decision, in almost all of the cases, those decisions by the AOR holder are final. So they have full ownership of them. And that system, that AOR system, requires other values as well to get the best results. And one of them is authenticity. And authenticity is defined by the company as, quote, being able to speak hard truths. Now, this can be easier said than done, of course. And we at least in Western business, have been trained really well to just fall in line and conform and to toe the line. So to help employees at Asana get over these learned habits, these deep-seated habits of playing safe and making nice and being agreeable, the company sends them to a 2-day training program to, quote, literally practice speaking uncomfortable truths in a way that's both blunt and compassionate. So we can look at mindfulness as the company's master value. And they believe that busyness, rushing around to get things done chaotically, is not a virtue. That rather mindfulness is a necessity, because mindfulness allows people in the company to see when some novel hypothesis just isn't proving out as expected. And I think we've all been in these situations where a leader, a manager, or somebody at an executive level has a hypothesis on how something should go, and people scramble to tailor to that person's preference. Well, Asana sees this a different way. So their philosophy is that when you're blazing new trails, the traveler who checks the compass will almost always end up taking the more direct route. And you can't do that when everybody's rushing through things. So for them, mindfulness is really core. It's key. It's essential to the successful practice of their business. And if we look at the 4 Ps in conscious business, profit, people, planet, and presence, we could say for sure Asana is practicing presence, that people are present to themselves and to one another through their authenticity. And of course, the P, the value of people, the component of people, is well respected within this. I don't know what their contribution or their commitment to planet is. It didn't say in the article. But then the 4th P, of course, is profit. So what about profit? Does this practice of mindfulness actually work for the company and result in profit? And it proves out, because Asana's revenue is growing by 80% a year. So if you're looking for proof, or if somehow, like a lot of people in Western business might be skeptical that these kinds of practices actually yield fruit, you could look at Asana as another example of a company that is practicing conscious business values and actually making money by doing it. So this all supports, in my mind, Principle 7 of the Conscious Business Declaration, which is, when aligned with oneness, and we might say even just being mindful, business is the most powerful engine on earth for creating prosperity and flourishing for all. So thanks everyone for watching, for tuning in. I'll leave you there and wish you a great weekend. We'll see you next week on Wednesday at 9 a.m. U.S. Central Time for another edition of the Conscious Business Coffee Break. Have a great weekend, everyone.